You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi, and today it's Monday. It's November 24th, 2025. This is Thanksgiving week. And I'm going to hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving this year. I want to cover, it looks to me like the war in Ukraine is coming to an end, finally. And I want to replay and go over some of the things that I think are critical in terms of how the war has ended. And I'm going to refer to two articles that I wrote in October. Back in October, I was really trying to say essentially the direction we were going with Donald Trump, if you remember, was going to back off, saying that Zelensky had lost. He was going to say that Russia was going to face greater sanctions if the war continued. In place and negotiate a peace. He's also getting frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu, who was pushing to completely crush Hamas. Now, the two articles I wrote was that October 13th, 2025, I wrote an article that says that Netanyahu is going to face his greatest challenge. Because what I was pointing out is that Netanyahu was challenged by an attack that Netanyahu did on Qatar to try to kill Hamas leaders without first clearing it with President Trump. And the reaction of the White House was very negative and saying that it was not helpful that Netanyahu was launching this attack on Qatar, where we have a major military base, while he was trying to negotiate a peace proposal in Gaza. Now, eventually, Netanyahu listened and backed off. Netanyahu was on the theme at that time that Israel is a sovereign nation, which of course it is, and that he and the Israeli government are free to rule Israel as they see fit, which is also true. But the point is that without President Trump's support, Israel would not have turned back Hamas after the October 7th attack. Israel needed our munitions, our military support, our money in order to achieve a victory over Hamas. At the same time, Israel was fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon. We were pushing back on the Houthi rebels in Yemen. And Syria was in disarray. We had a chance in the Middle East to really achieve some major changes in that the Palestinian movement and Hamas had been largely, I wouldn't want to say destroyed, because there was still remnants of it left, but deeply, deeply weakened. So Netanyahu kind of, and by the way, also at that time was when President Trump called in Charlie Kirk, Patrick Ben-David, Megyn Kelly, all of the White House, and began saying that, as strong as supporters they had been of Israel, that he wanted to see more criticism of the Israeli government on these points. And Trump was really putting pressure on Israel to come around and say, okay, we'll stop the fighting. We'll come to terms with Hamas, and we'll have a peace accord. Trump wants to go back to the Abraham Accords, which he's advanced in the Middle East as the only solution, peace through prosperity. And Netanyahu went along. Of course, Trump fashions himself on the art of the deal as being a brilliant negotiator. And this was, Netanyahu's been in power for 3 decades in Israel. And he served as vice president, he served as prime minister 3 times. And so this is a time for Netanyahu to possibly ride off into the sunset, saying that he is a hero, that he has achieved greater stability for Israel, given its enemies in the Middle East who want to destroy Israel, including the attack President Trump did on Iran, which is a massive military attack with B-2 bombers. So we have a different Middle East today. It's not 100% secure yet. Hamas will try to come back into the Gaza. They'll try to bring back the Palestinians. But again, we can deal with that chapter later. although Netanyahu does continue to launch assaults on Hamas in Gaza, and I'm sure Trump is being consulted right now. But the point is, it's under control for the moment. And in the Middle East, for the moment is about all you can say until we have a permanent or lasting accord to accept the state of Israel as a Jewish state. Now, I also wrote an article then on October 23rd, how Trump could force an endgame in the war between Ukraine and Russia. Now, at that time, what was happening was that President Putin was saying that he basically wanted to come to an end to the war, but he was not going to relinquish territory. In fact, he wanted to keep part of the Donbass region that he had not yet taken. Okay, and so with Zelensky, who was arguing that they could take back, President Trump actually went to the United Nations on September 23rd, 2025, a few months ago, and said that Ukraine could win back all the territory Russia seized. And Vice President Vance echoed that theme, saying that we were seriously considering giving long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine that could be used to hit deep into Russia. These are cruise missiles which could be nuclear armed. Now, that was all a plan of General Kellogg, who was a special envoy to the Ukraine for President Trump. And what Kellogg had managed to negotiate was that we would sell these weapons to NATO, who would then supply them to Russia. Well, Putin made it clear that that wasn't going to cut it. That it was our weapons fired by our troops and our guidance systems. We were going to be at war with Russia, no matter how we positioned it. And this path that they were going down in September and early October, that we were going down, was an escalation of the war. And Trump had a phone call with Putin on October 16th, and he accepted Putin's suggestion to meet in Budapest, Hungary, for another round of talks. However, those talks never happened because the very next day, during the White House meeting with Zelensky, Trump refused to provide the Tomahawk missiles, but also he wanted to make it clear that he wanted Russia to stop and negotiate in peace where they were. And they had not yet taken all of Donbass, which is the region that is largely Russian-speaking in Ukraine. Now, so what's happened in the last few days, and these I think are significant changes that, again, are not going to get reported here in the United States, but Russia has now taken a key city that they've been after in Donbass. They've been after it, attacking it for like 21 days. And this city has now fallen to Russia. It begins with a P. These cities are very difficult to pronounce in Ukraine, but it was one of the key cities that essentially was blocking Putin from advancing until he was able to gain this territory. Having gained the territory, Putin now is at a position where the Ukrainians realize they've lost the war. And this was a major point I was making in the articles I was writing in October, that a fundamental realization had to be that Russia won. And we were not going to take back this territory from Russia and Ukraine without a nuclear war. And it wasn't worth going to a nuclear war over. So here's the article. I'll put it here, Chris, so you can put it up for people to see. But it is an article in the Gateway Pundit today, which I think will be overlooked in terms of its significance by many people. But again, it's critical in that Russia has taken back this town. Here's the article, and we can post that. Take a look at it. And the town is called Pokrovsk, Pokrovsk, Pokrovsk. 21-month siege. Thousands of Ukrainian troops are now encircled in this pocket, this Minograd cauldron, and they're going to have to surrender. There's probably no way they can fight their way out. So Russia has conquered essentially a dozen settlements in a week in eastern Donetsk, northern Krakow, and southern Zaporozhye. Moscow's forces are encircling key Ukrainian stronghold forces at Pokrovsk. Okay, so this city is a logistics hub for Kiev. It's the last fortified bastion before the Dnieper River on the way to Kiev. Russia can now walk into Kiev if they want to. There's nothing going to stop Russia from going to Kiev unless Russia just decides it doesn't have to do it. Okay, and the war is lost, and now the terms are going to be that Zelensky's going to have to accept that there's going to have to be a new election. Zelensky's going to have to face up to corruption charges. I would say Zelensky probably ought to be worried for his life because of the Ukrainian oligarchs know he knows too much. By the way, you got the dark Corsi effect going on again with the light. This happens about once or twice a year when the sun hits in a particular location. Of course, I won't be here for very long. This is a home I've lived in for 35 years, but as I've announced, my wife, after 32 years of marriage, decided to have an affair and broke up our marriage. Wanted me to quit politics and quit doing everything I'm doing, but I think God took her out of my life to put me back to work. Do you recall I did not take the plea deal from that was offered from Mueller, the Mueller investigation of Russian collusion? I thought I was going to go to prison for the rest of my life. Since 2018, I've had a very rough go. But it's I see things are clearing. I've gone into investment banking. I've created La Chance Capital Partners with several good friends, and we are now funding people who are looking for money on developing new technology, new innovations, health and health, make America healthy again, in security and cybersecurity, and many different areas of interest that I'm interested in. We're going to mobilize resources and money in order to fund these companies. And we hope to work very closely with the Trump administration in doing so. But the point I want to make is that Donald Trump has now embraced a policy which I think makes sense. And it's one that is going to succeed. And he's going to have been able to credit in 2025, I believe, having ended both the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine. Now, that will be historic. And, of course, he won't get a Pulitzer Prize for it because the leftists who control the Pulitzer Prize would never give Trump the acknowledgement. But I don't think I can think of this. This is historic in that very few peacemakers have come forward to have eras in which we can live peacefully as a world and quit having these perpetual wars, which only benefit the bankers, the New World Order, one world government crowd, and all those others who are evil and want to destroy the United States of America and our traditional values. Well, we certainly have a strong dark Corsi effect going on here with the light. Chris, you want to come on and comment? Because I think this is, to me, another major phase of the work I've done. I've been working on these issues for years. And I think the left is in deep retreat right now.
The left is in big trouble right now, despite what they try to tell you, despite the news media and, of course, their social media minions trying to tell you Trump is losing it, Trump is this, Trump is that. They tried to pin the Epstein files on him. He's pretty much plowing through and doing a job. He's been a positive president, I guess, net positive, if you will. The good outweighs the bad so far. I know young people would like to see him fix up the economy, but the damage done by the Democrats over the Obama and Biden eras, very difficult to fix in less than a year.
Go back to the Clintons. Clinton started it.
That's right. Now, well, they said the Democrats seem to like the country the way they're destroying it.
Yeah, because they want to destroy the country.
Yeah, they do.
And
It's
now
the only
the
way they stay in power.
next big contest is going to be whether Mondami gets to have New York be a sanctuary city, for mostly peaceful Muslims.
Well, try this. He met with President Trump last week,
Right.
and pretty much realizes that New York City is going to need federal money to survive, especially survive his regime. So I'm almost guessing that Mondami is just saying whatever he wanted to do to get into power to become the mayor for his own career. I don't think he's going to be that effectual. I don't think he's going to do little, if any, of what he promised. Because basically, as John Quincy Adams noted to us a long time ago, that if you're a Muslim and you're talking to who you consider infidels, you can lie to them all you want, because you're justified religiously to do so.
The point is that Mondami, if he does do half of what he says he wants to do, will be committing crimes.
Well, he wants to be a celebrity. He wants to be the next Obama, and I just it's almost like he doesn't really want to do anything as mayor. Kind of like when he was state assemblyman. The guy barely showed up for anything anyway at the time.
Yeah. Sponsoring him, I believe.
Well, think about this. Most of the leadership of the Democrats over the last 20 years, I mean, the leadership, the higher-ups, the people that ran for the most prominent offices, are celebrity types, people that like the idea of being a celebrity on social media or wherever else. It's almost the Obama effect. Nowadays, look, Democrats ran Kamala Harris on what? Merit? On what? Policy? No, on celebrity. They ran Hillary Clinton on celebrity. They ran Gavin Newsom's trying to run on celebrity. That's basically it. They don't want to talk about policy. They want to turn these elections into a high school student body president election.
Mutilate children sexually.
Right. But with a nice smile, pretty hair, doesn't matter. The electorate, the wine sipping soccer moms who think they're doing good by voting for Democrats don't care. And that's the problem. People don't understand what these people are really up to.
Well, they will as the country deteriorates and the cities deteriorate. Yeah. And I think the next thing Donald Trump's got to do is he's got to take seriously the election integrity.
Yes.
We've got to get control of the Justice Department. We've got to get that executive order, election integrity issued soon. The ultimatum for Zelensky is Thanksgiving. And Zelensky's either got to take this deal or get a much worse one. Because what I pointed out in those articles was all Trump has to do to end the war is quit funding Zelensky. We pull back our support. We quit giving Zelensky the military equipment or the guidance of our missiles or the assistance technically, the intelligence, the money. Zelensky's dead in the water.
Here's a savvy move by Donald Trump. I was reading between the lines of these 28 points. If an agreement, a required agreement, would have to make sure Ukraine does not get into NATO. However, right. Ukraine's allowed to join the EU. Generally, Eastern Europeans vote more anti-globalist, if you will. I know Zelensky's in there, but remember, Zelensky was public enemy number one according to the left back in 2017. He was the Ukrainian Trump at the time, according to these people. So they forgot about that rather quickly. Think about this. So Ukraine, if this peace deal comes through, Trump kept them out of NATO, but allowed them to join the EU to bring more futuristic anti-globalist views into that parliament. Think about that.
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think the EU is finished.
Yes.
It's just a matter of time till it crumbles and is destroyed.
Well, it destroyed itself.
It's self-destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a Mission Impossible.
The globalist mission doesn't work.
Right.
Now, the climate change is dead. Finally, I think we're done with this nonsense of climate change. And that took long enough. But if you go to Climate Depot, well, let's just see what Mark Morano's doing these days. In Climate Depot, he's got, thank you, President Trump. So thank you, Mr. Trump. Trump's masterclass. The absence allowed BRICS nations and petrostates to team up to derail So boycott of an axis of obstruction opposed to climate action. Oil-rich nations phase out the whole thing about forgetting you need to the health saying on the Real America's Voice, and he's right. Okay, so the even Bjorn Lomborg, COP30 repeats 3 decades of ineffective climate policy. Years of the UN-driven COP process have had zero impact on the speed of global decarbonization. Right. They've done nothing except to try to, get wind and solar. And Obama and Biden's friends made lots of money on Solyndra and other boondoggle wind and solar projects that don't work. So after 10 years after the Paris Climate Agreement, climatism is crumbling. It can't crumble fast enough for me. I mean, because you'll point out, I've been writing a trilogy. I've got 2 of the books written. One is The Truth About Energy, Global Warming, and Climate Change. That's the second one, The Truth About Neo-Marxism, Cultural Maoism, and Anarchy. And then I'm pointing out how, in fact, the anarchy of the Democrats is where they are right now. The third book, which I hope to be able to get my mind around after I get out of the situation here with moving and this marriage falling apart, rebuild my life into a new chapter. I want to write the book on the truth about transhumanism, artificial intelligence, and perpetual life extension. I want to expose the insanity that these people think that they can make Earth perfect and they can live forever. It's a satanic wish, and we can't reach the realm of God. We can't build a Tower of Babel and assault heaven. All these things are insanity. And so therefore, what we've got to understand is that we're here for a spiritual existence. It's temporary, and it is bound by rules that we can't just arbitrarily make up. Okay, that's what they'd like you to think in the neo-modernism of the critical race theory. Your sex can be whatever your gender is different than your sex. You might have male or female organs, but that doesn't mean your sex performance is male or female. Now, these kinds of ideas are inherently destructive, and they've been perpetuated since 1917. We had to destroy the culture of America, which meant destroy under attack in Europe with the Muslims. The next challenge we're going to face is with Islam worldwide, as Islam surfaces to say that Christianity needs to be destroyed. We'll probably have one more battle of that issue before we can enter into a new era, which I believe we will do. Okay, so the economy, I continue to warn people, is fragile. And the global economy is particularly fragile. Gold is today trading at $4,096 an ounce. It's holding consistently over $4,000 an ounce. Silver is trading at $50.51 an ounce. I'm imploring everybody, go to Swiss America. At the top of the Corsi Nation homepage, you can see Chris will show you how to navigate it. But if you go to the gold up there tab, right there, Chris is showing you get these Walking Liberty $50 offer. This is first-time customers. Just fill out the form. One-time offer. You buy as many of these coins as you want, up to 250. They're almost 100% silver, and they will appreciate at least you can get some gold and silver. I mean, this is a way to get some precious metals. And silver is a lot more affordable than gold. Buying an ounce of gold at $4,000 an ounce is, considerably more out of the reach of most people than buying an ounce of silver at $50 an ounce. And at $50 an ounce, silver is likely to go to $1,000 an ounce, although that could happen next year. And I can see that the world economy, amount of debt we have, massive amount of, we're now at a debt that is just out of control and no way to really stop it. And Europe is also deeply in debt and no way to really control it. So we're entering into a new dimension here, a new time. And I'm going to be reconfiguring CorsiNation.com and how we're going to be doing the broadcasts in 2026. I'll be relocating and looking forward to the next chapter of my life. I think it's going to be an exciting period of time to be in investment banking. I think Donald Trump is at the point of being able to accomplish some remarkably transformative changes in direction for this country. And I remain extremely positive for the country. But as we head into Thanksgiving, I anticipate we're going to see an end to the Ukraine war. And that's something that in September and October looked like it was not going to happen. But it has turned around. If that turns around, we'll be going through a major ability to reunite and say to Russia, we're going to end sanctions. We're going to try to foster the Abraham Accords. And let's get to an era where we can look at peace through prosperity rather than all of this war, which only benefits the bankers of the New World Order crowd that wants to destroy humanity. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. This is Monday. It's November 24th, 2025. And as we approach the end of this year, I'm very confident that the first year of Donald Trump, as rugged as it's been, and we have not gotten rid of by any means the Obama and the Biden people who are yet in the bureaucracy, including the Justice Department. They have to be weeded out. But we've made such tremendous strides that I'm confident in the end God always wins. And I'm imploring us to continue on 2 Chronicles 7:14 to get down on our knees and ask God to forgive us for letting our country get to this point. If we do that, God will hear our prayer and heal our land. Thank you for joining us. This is CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. We'll be back. We'll be back later on this week. Thanksgiving is coming up, and we'll be resuming full scale next week. God bless.